The golden gates of Buckingham Palace have finally shattered, and what is happening behind closed doors right now is a full-blown war that could completely dismantle the British monarchy as we know it. Lady Louise Windsor, the quiet, hidden weapon of the royal family, has just dropped a legal and emotional atom bomb by officially claiming Queen Elizabeth's multi-million-dollar private estate. This isn't a request. It's an absolute takeover. And the reaction from Queen Camilla's family? Absolute, unadulterated fury. Leaked palace documents reveal screaming matches echoing through the corridors of Clarence House, with Camilla reportedly exploding in a fit of betrayal, realizing her own children have been permanently erased from the late monarch's ultimate legacy. Tears, broken royal protocols, and threats of a public legal retaliation are rocking the palace walls at this very second. Just when Camilla thought she'd secure her bloodline's future, Louise stepped out of the shadows to claim what she insists is rightfully hers, leaving Camilla's family facing total humiliation. But the most terrifying twist isn't just the millions at stake. It's a dark, hidden clause in the Queen's private will that changes everything. And you will not believe what Louise is about to expose next. To truly grasp how this explosive war between Lady Louise Windsor and Queen Camilla's family ignited, we have to peel back decades of hidden resentment, calculated silence, and deep-seated palace rivalries that the royal establishment spent millions trying to bury. For years, the public was fed a beautifully curated fairy tale, the image of a united, modernized royal family transitioning smoothly after the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. But behind the heavy velvet curtains of Windsor Castle, a much darker, highly calculated chess game was being played, and the board has just been flipped upside down. At the absolute center of this unfolding catastrophe is 22-year-old Lady Louise Windsor. For her entire life, the media treated Louise as the ultimate underdog of the family. The daughter of Prince Edward and Sophie, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, Louise's very entry into the world was marked by extreme drama and heartbreak. Born prematurely during a life-threatening medical emergency that left both her and her mother fighting for survival, she became an instant symbol of fragility and resilience within the palace walls. Because of this traumatic birth, she was fiercely protected, cherished, and shielded by her grandparents, Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. As she grew older, her parents made a shocking, unprecedented move that baffled royal commentators at the time. They stripped away the crushing weight of official royal titles from their children. Louise didn't walk around as Her Royal Highness Princess Louise. She lived her life simply as Lady Louise. She didn't demand millions in taxpayer-funded security. She didn't build a multi-million-dollar media empire in California like Harry and Meghan, and she didn't throw tantrums in the press. Instead, she took a minimum-wage summer job at a local garden center, drove a modest second-hand car, and quietly enrolled at the University of St. Andrews. But do not let that quiet, humble facade fool you for a single second. The global public saw a relatable, down-to-earth student, but the late Queen saw something entirely different. A pristine, unblemished continuation of the pure royal bloodline. Insiders are now leaking the shocking truth that while Prince William was being burdened by state duties and Harry was burning bridges down to the ground, Louise was spending highly intimate, secret hours with the Queen at Balmoral. They watched children's television together on the couch without any protocols. They took long walks through the Scottish Highlands. And most importantly, Louise became the chosen keeper of Prince Philip's greatest passion, competitive carriage driving. When Philip passed away, he stunned the entire family by bypassing his own children to leave his custom-built driving carriage and most cherished fell ponies directly to Louise. That wasn't just a sweet grandfatherly gift. It was the first massive, silent clue of a massive inheritance shift that was already underway behind closed doors. And this is precisely where the simmering pot of resentment began to boil over for Queen Camilla and her family. You see, while Louise was quietly securing her place as the absolute favorite grandchild, a completely different struggle for legitimacy was happening on the other side of the palace. Camilla's journey into the royal family was paved with unparalleled public vitriol, media warfare, and the heavy, haunting ghost of Princess Diana. For decades, Camilla fought tooth and nail, enduring endless public humiliation to rehabilitate her image, slowly climbing her way up from the most hated woman in Britain to the crowned queen consort next to King Charles. Naturally, as Camilla rose to power, her own biological children from her previous marriage, Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopez, were brought along into the inner royal circle. They started appearing at high-profile family gatherings. Their children served as crucial pages of honor at the historic coronation, and King Charles embraced them warmly as his own stepchildren. Tom, a successful food writer, and Laura, an art curator, always maintained a very careful public stance, continuously insisting to reporters that they were married in, and not technically part of the official royal family. But behind palace doors, the reality was radically different. Leaked diary entries and insider testimony suggest that Camilla was quietly, aggressively executing a long-term plan to ensure her children and grandchildren would be heavily taken care of by the staggering private wealth of the crown. Camilla wanted her family to be cemented into the history books, to be given a massive slice of the late queen's immense personal fortune, the private jewelry, the valuable equestrian estates, and the historic artifacts that hold astronomical value. Camilla believed her fierce loyalty to Charles during the darkest days of the monarchy had earned her family that right. What Camilla completely failed to anticipate was that Queen Elizabeth II was playing a much longer, far more ruthless game of bloodline preservation. The late queen watched Camilla's family integrate into the palace, but she never truly viewed them as the future of the monarchy. To the queen, the crown was built on blood, legitimacy, and ancient tradition, things Camilla's children simply do not possess. The tension between Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, who was widely known as the Queen's ultimate favorite daughter-in-law, and Camilla had already been simmering for years due to old palace scandals. And now, the fuse has finally been lit. The ultimate trap was set in the late Queen's sealed private will, and the moment it was cracked open, a devastating declaration of war was unleashed. Louise has stepped forward to claim the entire private estate, and Camilla's family is realizing they've been completely blindsided. But the horror for Camilla's family was only just beginning, because the true nature of what Louise just claimed is about to trigger a royal disaster that no one saw coming. The catastrophic explosion inside the palace walls happened on a Tuesday evening at Clarence House, in a high-stakes, closed-door meeting that was meant to be a routine reading of the late Queen's finalized private asset distribution. King Charles, Queen Camilla, and Prince Edward were all present, but the atmosphere turned to absolute ice the moment Lady Louise Windsor's legal representative stepped into the room. They didn't just walk in with standard paperwork. They presented an ironclad, freshly unsealed legal declaration signed by Queen Elizabeth II just months before her passing. The document explicitly stated that the absolute entirety of her private equestrian estates, her priceless collection of personal diaries detailing decades of hidden political secrets, and a hidden vault of rare, non-crown family jewels were to be placed under the sole, independent ownership of Lady Louise. The room instantly dissolved into absolute chaos. According to high-level palace insiders who witnessed the aftermath, Queen Camilla turned visibly pale before completely losing her temper. Screams echoed through the historic corridors as Camilla reportedly shouted that this was an absolute insult to her years of service and an intentional act of warfare designed to humiliate her biological children, Tom and Laura. For decades, Camilla had been quietly promised that her side of the family would receive a substantial portion of these exact private assets as a gesture of ultimate inclusion. Instead, they were left with absolutely nothing. One leaked text message, allegedly sent from a frantic palace staffer to a high-ranking courtier, surfaced on an exclusive royal forum reading, "C is losing her mind." Furniture was literally slammed. She's calling it a coordinated coup by Edward's family to erase her kids from history books. Panic is an understatement. The raw emotion in that room was pure, unadulterated heartbreak and betrayal. Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopez were reportedly notified via an urgent, encrypted phone call, and sources claim Laura was left in floods of tears, feeling as though her children, who had proudly served as pages of honor at the coronation, had been publicly cast aside like temporary guests. Camilla reportedly demanded that King Charles immediately use his monarchical powers to veto the distribution, override the late Queen's wishes, and split the private estate evenly. But Charles was caught in an impossible, agonizing trap. To overturn his late mother's explicit, legally binding private will would cause a constitutional crisis and invite a savage media backlash that the fragile monarchy simply could not survive. But just as the argument reached a fever pitch, the absolute first major twist of this scandal dropped like a guillotine. Lady Louise's legal team calmly laid down a second piece of documentation that sent shockwaves straight through everyone present. This wasn't just a passive inheritance of property. The late Queen had inserted a highly controversial, deeply hidden clause within the private estate trust. The clause dictated that if any member of the royal family, including the sitting king or queen, attempted to legally challenge or alter Louise's sole ownership of these private treasures, a massive, legally mandated penalty would instantly trigger. What was that penalty? If Camilla or Charles fought the will, a highly restricted, heavily guarded archive of Queen Elizabeth's private, Handwritten daily journals spanning from the mid-1990s to her final days would automatically be released into a public trust, completely bypassing palace censorship. These are the diaries that contain the raw, unfiltered truth about the Princess Diana tragedy, the true depths of the Harry and Meghan fallout, and the late Queen's genuine, potentially devastating thoughts regarding Camilla taking the title of Queen. The realization hit the room like a physical blow. Lady Louise wasn't just holding the keys to a multi-million-dollar private estate. She was holding the ultimate kill switch to the entire reputation of the modern British monarchy. The late Queen had deliberately weaponized her own inheritance to protect Louise, ensuring that no one, not even the King and Queen, could bully her or strip her of her treasures without risking total, global exposure. Camilla's fury instantly mutated into pure panic. Her family wasn't just left out in the cold. They were completely backed into a corner, forced to swallow this bitter pill of humiliation or risk a catastrophic public disclosure that could ruin their names forever. The tension behind palace doors has now reached an all-time high, with emergency meetings being called around the clock. Camilla is reportedly refusing to sit at the same table as Prince Edward and Sophie, while Lady Louise remains at the center of the storm, completely calm, refusing to back down an inch from her grandmother's final wishes. But if Camilla thought this hidden diary clause was the worst part of the nightmare, she was tragically mistaken. Because a second, even more terrifying revelation about what Louise plans to do with these private estates is about to leak to the global media, and it will change the balance of power in the royal family forever. The silent war behind the palace walls didn't stay hidden for long. Within 48 hours of that disastrous confrontation at Clarence House, the containment strategy completely collapsed. It started with a series of highly synchronized, untraceable leaks on a restricted Reddit community known for highly accurate intelligence on the House of Windsor. A user posting under an encrypted handle uploaded a blurry photograph of a highly confidential legal brief bearing the official stamp of the Edinburgh estate. The accompanying text was explosive. The Queen's true legacy has been claimed. Louise is taking it all. Camilla's family is frozen out, and the palace is in absolute freefall. Within minutes, the internet exploded. The leak breached the mainstream media, spreading like a wildfire across X, TikTok, and global news syndicates. The hashtag Palace Civil War trended worldwide at #1, racking up a staggering 50 million views in less than 12 hours. Internet sleuths, royal commentators, and casual observers began frantically dissecting every single public appearance of the family over the past year, looking for cracks in the facade. Digital culture exploded into a battleground of viral TikTok videos, with creators using green screens to map out the exact timeline of the late Queen's private estate transfer, openly mocking the visible tension between Queen Camilla and Duchess Sophie at recent events. The internet was in a state of absolute frenzy, but the narrative shifted from speculative internet drama to a historic scandal when a highly influential, verified insider on X, known to have deep ties to high-ranking courtiers, posted a devastating 15-part thread. The thread alleged that Queen Camilla's biological son, Tom Parker Bowles, had been spotted entering a prominent London legal firm specializing in high-profile estate disputes, flanked by 2 bodyguards. The post read, "Sources confirm Tom Parker Bowles has been authorized by a furious high-ranking royal to explore all available legal avenues to contest a highly irregular private trust." This is a direct challenge to Lady Louise Windsor. The gloves are officially off. The public backlash against Camilla's side of the family was instantaneous and utterly brutal. Millions of users flooded social media platforms, accusing Camilla and her children of pure greed, entitlement, and attempting to hijack a legacy that belonged exclusively to the royal bloodline. Viral memes depicting Camilla's children as uninvited guests trying to raid the palace vaults flooded the internet. One highly upvoted tweet stated, "Tom and Laura need to remember they are married into the family, not born into it. Trying to sue a 22-year-old girl over Queen Elizabeth's private things is an absolute disgrace." The digital humiliation was crushing, leaving Camilla's family utterly isolated in the court of public opinion. But just as the public was reeling from the online chaos, the absolute second, most devastating twist of this entire saga dropped, sending a shockwave that paralyzed the entire British establishment. Lady Louise Windsor wasn't just planning to quietly hold onto these private estates and sentimental treasures. A shocking, authenticated leak from inside the University Officer Training Corps revealed that Louise had just finalized plans to convert one of the newly inherited, massive private equestrian estates near Windsor into an independent, heavily fortified private trust. But it wasn't the real estate that triggered absolute panic at the highest levels of government. The true revelation was what Louise was physically moving into that estate under the cover of darkness. Armored transport vehicles were reportedly spotted transferring dozens of heavily sealed, industrial-grade security crates from the late Queen's private vaults directly to Louise's new compound. Inside those crates were not just old saddles and riding gear. They contained the absolute entirety of Queen Elizabeth's unredacted personal diaries, centuries of deeply classified private family letters, and, most terrifyingly, audio recordings the late Queen had secretly made during her final years to document the true, unfiltered history of her reign. The realization hit King Charles and Queen Camilla like a catastrophic tidal wave. Lady Louise hadn't just secured a multi-million-dollar inheritance. She had successfully established an independent, completely privatized, and legally untouchable royal archive outside of the Crown's jurisdiction and censorship. She had effectively seized absolute control over the deepest, darkest secrets of the British monarchy, completely bypassing the royal archives at Windsor Castle. Rumors immediately intensified across global media platforms that Louise was being heavily guided behind the scenes by her mother, Sophie, and a highly powerful faction of old guard royal loyalists who believed the monarchy under Charles and Camilla had lost its way. Louise now possessed the definitive power to validate or completely destroy any narrative the palace attempted to put out. The balance of power had completely broken. Camilla's family wasn't just dealing with a lost inheritance anymore. They were looking at a 22-year-old woman who held a loaded psychological weapon pointed directly at the heart of their legitimacy. And as the panic reached a fever pitch, a chilling question began circulating among the elite. What exactly did the late Queen tell Louise to do with those secrets if the family ever turned against her? The news of Lady Louise Windsor establishing her own sovereign, untouchable archive didn't just break the internet. It completely paralyzed the global media landscape, causing a furious, unyielding rift between the public and the entertainment industry. Within 24 hours, the world split into two fiercely opposing camps, and the resulting digital warfare has been nothing short of historic. Across TikTok, Instagram, and X, the public reaction has heavily tilted in favor of the 22-year-old royal. Viral video essays dissecting the late Queen's strategic brilliance are racking up hundreds of millions of views. Millions of everyday citizens are hailing Louise as an absolute feminist icon, a young woman who successfully outmaneuvered the Machiavellian machinery of the palace to claim what her grandparents explicitly intended for her to have. One massively viral Twitter thread, shared by a prominent cultural commentator, perfectly summarized the public sentiment. Lady Louise just pulled off the ultimate chess move. She didn't scream for media attention. She didn't write a tell-all book. She just quietly accepted her grandmother's truest legacy, built a literal fortress around it, and left Camilla's family holding absolute nothing. The bloodline remains undefeated. The comment section underneath that single post dissolved into a battlefield, with over 100,000 users aggressively debating the legitimacy of blended families versus royal birthright. Supporters of the Edinburgh family began flooding Queen Camilla's official charity pages with emojis of crowns and horses, a silent, mocking reminder of who the late monarch truly viewed as the rightful heirs to her personal affections. But the real, unfiltered panic wasn't just happening in the comment sections of social media. The traditional media industry and the legal world are experiencing a complete meltdown over the terrifying precedents this situation sets. High-profile legal experts and constitutional lawyers are taking over primetime news slots on BBC, CNN, and Sky News, openly arguing about the catastrophic implications of a private citizen owning an unredacted, classified archive of the British head of state. During a heated live broadcast on a major British news network, a seasoned royal biographer clashed violently with a constitutional scholar. The biographer, visibly shaken, hammered his fist on the desk, shouting, "This is a direct, catastrophic breach of royal security. If Lady Louise has unchecked, independent possession of Queen Elizabeth's raw diaries, she effectively holds a knife to the throat of the reigning king. This isn't an inheritance. It's a hostage situation." The media industry is in an absolute frenzy, with multi-million-dollar publishing houses and global streaming giants reportedly scrambling behind the scenes to get a piece of the action. Leaked Hollywood Insider reports suggest that top executives at Netflix and Spotify have already held emergency meetings to discuss how to approach Lady Louise's legal team for exclusive rights to the contents of her newly established private trust. Rumors are circulating that a prominent American media mogul has quietly prepared a staggering, 9-figure blank check offer just to secure a single, exclusive interview with Louise at her new estate. The commercial pressure is immense, and it's putting an unbearable amount of stress on the palace's press office, which has been forced to issue a series of frantic, tight-lipped no-comment statements to the press. Meanwhile, on the darker side of the internet, The backlash against Queen Camilla's family has intensified to an incredibly toxic degree. Public sympathy for Tom and Laura has completely evaporated. The public is viewing their reported legal consultations as an act of pure, unbridled desperation, a final, pathetic attempt to cash in on a family legacy they have absolutely no biological claim to. Cruel hashtags mocking Camilla's children are trending globally, with users editing mocking parody videos of Tom Parker Bowles trying to cook his way into the late Queen's will. But just as the media storm reached its absolute peak, a terrifying statement from an unexpected industry source completely changed the narrative. A highly respected, former director of British intelligence appeared on a prominent political podcast and dropped a chilling warning that sent a freeze straight through the entertainment world and the palace alike. He looked directly into the camera and stated, "The public thinks this is a juicy reality show about a family feud. It is not. If those diaries contain what we suspect they contain regarding the true history of the late 1990s, the national security of this country is compromised. There are factions within the government who will not allow that archive to remain in private hands. Lady Louise is in far more danger than she realizes." The podcast host sat in stunned, breathless silence as the episode abruptly cut to black, leaving the global audience reeling in absolute shock. The controversy was no longer just about a family squabble over jewelry and stables. It had officially elevated into a high-stakes game of survival. And the absolute worst part? A brand new, completely unforeseen player from within the family is about to step out of the shadows to turn this crisis into an absolute bloodbath. Just when Queen Camilla and the palace hierarchy thought they could negotiate with Lady Louise, the absolute final, most earth-shattering twist of this entire war leaked from an encrypted military database. It turns out the late Queen's private estate wasn't the final destination. The true, terrifying climax of this inheritance saga was a master plan set in motion years ago, and a brand new player has just emerged from the shadows to execute it. Leaked communications within the senior ranks of the Tayforth University Officers Training Corps have just exposed that Lady Louise Windsor has quietly initiated a highly confidential, top-tier clearance application. But it's not for standard military deployments or state diplomacy. She has reportedly filed a massive legal request to officially reactivate her full birthright title, stepping out of the shadows to claim her position as Her Royal Highness Princess Louise. The timing of this move is a lethal, calculated strike. She waited until she completed her grueling four-year degree at the University of St. Andrews, ensuring she had absolute academic and military credentials before striking the ultimate blow. But the title isn't even the real shocker. The true horror for Camilla's family is who is backing Louise in this absolute takeover. High-level insiders are confirming that Prince William has secretly signed off on an emergency royal decree that will bypass King Charles entirely the moment the crown transitions. The secret pact dictates that Princess Louise will not just inherit the Queen's private vaults. She is being officially designated as the supreme custodian of the entire Windsor legacy, effectively placing Camilla's children and grandchildren under her direct structural authority. The blended family hasn't just been left out of the will. They have been completely subordinated by a 22-year-old military cadet. The panic inside Clarence House has instantly reached a state of absolute emergency. Camilla is reportedly realizing that the late Queen didn't just protect Louise. She built a permanent, legal fortress around her to ensure that once Charles's reign ends, Camilla's line will be completely erased from the operational monarchy forever. Louise now holds the diaries, the private estates, the military backing, and the incoming king's total allegiance. But as the palace walls close in on Camilla's family, an even darker rumor has just surfaced from the secure compound where the late Queen's diaries are being held. A senior archivist reportedly walked out of the estate in tears after discovering a series of handwritten entries from August of 1997, the exact month of the Princess Diana tragedy. The entry apparently names one specific person who was never supposed to be near the throne, and Louise is reportedly preparing to present this exact document to the Privy Council. The monarchy is standing on the edge of a historical cliff, and Louise is holding the lever. The royal family is officially standing on the edge of a historical cliff, and Lady Louise holds the lever that could change the British monarchy forever. The lines have been drawn. The bloodline has claimed its ultimate vengeance, and Queen Camilla's family is backed into an absolute corner. But now, I want to hear from you. Was Queen Elizabeth entirely justified in executing this brutal chess move to protect the royal bloodline? Or did she go too far by completely freezing out Camilla's children and creating a toxic war behind palace doors? Do you think Lady Louise will actually release those devastating 1997 diaries to the Privy Council? Or is this the ultimate bargaining chip to secure her power under Prince William's future reign? Drop your absolute rawest thoughts and theories in the comment section right now. I am reading through every single one of them, and the debate down there is already exploding. If you want to stay ahead of the next massive, leaked update on this palace civil war, make sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe to Crown Watch, and turn on all notifications. The next chapter of this scandal is leaking in less than 24 hours, and you absolutely cannot afford to miss it. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next explosive breakdown.